Cold calls, whether you love them or you hate them, they're a critical part to any salesperson's job. I personally don't walk around my apartment without a headset in hand in case I want to start ripping off some dials. It's something I love to do. I know a lot of people don't like making them or receiving them, but in today's video, we're going to talk about how to most effectively make cold calls, some principles around cold calling, and why it's so important. For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Trent. I do software sales. I just promoted from an SDR to an account executive. You guys love this line. I've made about 37,000 cold calls, leading to over 12 million in pipeline generated, resulting in, all about the outcomes, $1 million in revenue. And this year in 2020, I went 9 for 9, January through September in my monthly SDR quota. And I've had a couple of people reach out to me and say, hey Trent, what's your approach to pipeline generation? Especially cold calling, because everyone knows I like to make the cold calls. Like, I've even had someone reach out on LinkedIn to me and said, just got a job at a startup, whatever. I need to start doing cold calls. Can you tell me about a sales pitch, what you do? So I'm gonna talk to you guys about my personal cold calling principles, the 6 of them, and then stay around to the end of the video because I have a 2-minute uploading of a real cold call out in the field that I've made. I ended up setting the meeting. I think you guys are gonna like it. You're gonna see the whole script in action and some of the principles put in place. So make sure to stay around for that. And before we get into it, make sure to hit that like button, so easy to do, and subscribe to the channel as well if you like the content. Thanks. As a professional cold caller, I've made so many mistakes, it's not even funny. I've had those days where I show up and say, I gotta make some calls again, or sometimes I show up and say, great, I gotta make some calls today, set some meetings, and hopefully make a little more money. So I'm gonna share my experiences and the successes and failures of my last 2 years of over 37,000 cold calls. I by no means have all the answers, but these are my 6 principles that I found to be important and things I keep in mind for every call. So we're gonna run by them pretty fast, and then we're gonna have an example cold call at the end that I actually made. So let me know in the comments below any questions you guys have on any of these in particular, because I'm not gonna get as deep as some of you may want me to get. Principle number 1 is what you say isn't important as how you say it. So something that's really critical on cold call, guys, is you need to build trust in the first 5 to 10 seconds. So you don't want to come off super salesy, you don't want to talk too fast, and that's something I really struggled with in the beginning. I almost talk with a more monotone voice. I slow it down. I say, hey, this is Trent from Qualtrics. How are you? And I just talk, I try and keep even keeled. I don't get too high, I don't get too low. And it's really important how you say things on these calls because they don't actually see your face. They can't look into your eyes. They just know what you're saying. So your upward or downward inflection is really important when you're making statements and asking questions. What you say isn't as important as how you say it. And you'll only learn that by experience. So go make some more cold calls. Principle number 2 is if the call feels rushed, it's you who are rushing the call. Make sure to control the pace at all times. So early on in my career in cold calling and sales, I almost sounded like a used car salesman. I'd say, oh, this is Trent from XXX. Like, what do you do? Blah, blah. You want to take a call? I was overly excited. I was too forward to people, and that resulted in a lot of people being turned off and not being receptive to what I'm saying. One of my managers told me one time, hey, if the call feels rushed, it's you who are rushing the call. And that can be you rushing the call, or it can be the prospect saying, yeah, about to run into a meeting. Hey, yep, how are you? You could just tell when they don't want to hear what you're saying. If they're trying to rush you off or if they're doing something, just say, yeah, is now a bad time? Well, the reason I'm calling is XYZ. Control the pace. Don't let the other person dictate the pace. Even if they're rushing it, talk at your normal pace, slow it down, and control the pace. Principle number 3 is always work in the phrase, the reason I'm calling you is XYZ. Typically what I say is, the reason I'm calling you is that I'm following up on a recent email I had sent you. Does the name blank ring a bell? Psychologically, when you give someone really early on the reason why you're calling, it will quickly build a little bit more trust with them and resonate, and they'll actually hear you out. Anytime you get a call and you don't know what it's about, you're pretty much wondering why they're calling you or what they want until they say it. So make sure really early on, literally in the first 10 seconds, the reason I'm calling you is XYZ. Always work in that phrase no matter what. Principle number 4, guys, is the most important. So if there's anything you take from this video, it's this. And it's make the ask for their time, every time, no matter what. What do I mean by that? It's essentially know your expected outcome of the call. My goal of cold calling is to set up an additional meeting. So in order to do that, I always have to ask, hey, would you be interested in setting up another call? some variation of that. So if your expected outcome is setting up a meeting, you gotta ask for their time. If your expected outcome is getting a recommendation to somebody else, hey, who is the person I need to speak with about XYZ? If your expected outcome is to literally sell them and do that transaction, hey, is it okay if I send over the paperwork now? We're gonna get the deal done. Whatever your ask is, whatever your expected outcome is, make sure to know that and clearly convey that each time and ask for it. Because if you don't ask, you'll never receive. Number 5, and it's really in accordance with the make the ask, but principle number 5 is always briefly convey what's in it for them before making the ask. Essentially bring a little bit more value versus just saying, hey, I would like to set up another call with you. Do you want to take it? Revision of that could be, hey, it sounds like you're spending time and money on this today. Would you be interested in setting up another call to review your strategy and see if we could find any alignment here to bring incremental value to you and your business? Always ask in the context of what's in it for the other person and give them more value, because that's the only way you're going to consistently setting more over time. Principle number 6, guys, anyone can do this. You don't need to have any skill to execute on this, but make sure to sound like you actually care about being on the call. Let's face it, people don't like receiving cold calls. It's awkward. And most of the time, many of you probably don't like making cold calls. So be that person who actually cares. Say, hey, how are you doing? Listen to them, respond to them. If they ask you back, say, hey, I'm doing really well. Thanks for asking. I think that's something that separated me, is I actually act like I care to be there. I'm trying to make someone's day better by bringing excitement, bringing energy to them, bringing positivity. And even if I don't set the meeting, I still hope they have a good day. I'm there to try and make their day better, bring value to them. So act like you actually care. And going back to the first point, use inflection upward and downward, and make sure that other person knows that you're there for them and you're taking time out of their day. So make sure to bring value and actually care and act like you want to be there talking to that person, because it will show through on the phone. Those are my 6 cold calling principles, guys. I hope one, if not all of them, have resonated with you. I want you guys to actually think about them, maybe write some of them down and see how you can begin to implement some of those principles in your own cold calling. I know we're missing some different angles, so let me know in the comments below any principles you guys have, and contribute to the sales community if you have any thoughts, disagreements, or you've seen any of these actually in practice, because I think they have the potential to help other people just by you commenting below. This is gonna be the last you hear from me in today's video. So make sure to like this video and subscribe as well if you're enjoying the content. And now you're gonna hear a 2-minute clip that I've uploaded from our outreach platform that records all our calls. I put a lot of these in place. I make the ask at the time. I'm cheerful on the phone, build a little rapport. The reason I'm calling is XYZ. So listen into it, guys. See how the principles are actually put in a real life application scenario here. And my ask to you guys is go make a couple more cold calls this week than you normally would, and you'll set some more meetings, and I hope these principles help. So go make those calls, guys. Good luck this week. Bye.